cooperation across your workplaces and sectors, and recognising that interdependency with each other. Your futures are all dependent on each other, and what we want as a union is worker voice to be front and centre of the decisions that are going to be taken on energy, on industrial policy over the course of this Parliament, and indeed over the course of the next generation. So today is the start of something, and I'm delighted that all of you have made the effort to be here, and I'm really looking forward to getting your views. So without further ado, I'll pass you over to our General Secretary, Gary Smith.
Good morning everybody, thanks for getting here. I'm Gary Smith, I'm the General Secretary. I'm many of you, some faces and old hands, great to see you. And fantastic to see a lot of new people.
Gary, can you move to a web page? It's a bit slow.
Sorry folks. Great to see everybody here this morning. Thank you for those who made it both last night and I know some of you have travelled today. What I don't want is us to be talking at you for a number of hours. It's a one room apart from anything else, but that's not what this is about today. And as Peter said, this really is a start in terms of making sure that workers' voices in the energy and energy manufacturing sectors are being listened to. We've got a fantastic mix of people, JCB, we've got engineering construction, we've got Hinkley Point, we've got British Gas, we've got gas distribution. Have we got gas transmission? Anybody for National Gas? No? We've got a lot of manufacturing members here for other factories and other energy intensive sectors. So it's great to have such a diverse group of people. And it is an opportunity to start the process of engaging with politicians and talking to them about the realities of energy policy and how it impacts your workplaces and your jobs. But just in opening up, what do you want to get out of today? Some of you have had a brief about this, others will be a bit starry-eyed. This is all new. What is useful for you today?
Security.
Explain.
We want to make sure we've got a feature.
You got a mic?
Gary, you know me, I'm John, I didn't need one. Hi Gary, good to see you again. We're looking for security in the future for our children and our grandchildren. In the gas industry, because they're talking about hydrogen, they're talking about X, Y and Z. But millions of homes depend on natural gas, and we want to make sure that's still a part of the future, Gary. You know you're a gas man yourself at one point, Gary. So as I say, we're looking for the future, for a strong industry going forward.
John, what did you do before you worked in the gas?
I was a coal miner.
And what happened to the coal mine in Europe?
I'm not like to swear.
Anybody else? What do you want for today? Dave?
What I'm looking for is something that governments are usually very reluctant to do, and that's make actual change in policy, and make a commitment to us, commit to these green industries. I think we're at a point where we could be the first to move around hydrogen and transfer manufacturing, and we're going to miss that advantage if we don't change and move quickly, because that's where we seem to have stalled over the last 18 months or so.
Great. Who else? Guys, the NGM?
I'll be looking for energy independence. Right now our finances are tied up on what we import. At least we can get hydrogen over the line. Look at where you become energy sufficient for ourselves. And on top of that, industry. There's far too many industries in this country that won't work on pure electric. So if we fail to get hydrogen over the line and natural gas is born, it's not just going to be us in the gas industry that's going to be affected. Loads of other industries, and it's what happens to them, job what happens to them farmers.
What are you doing national gas, in northern gas?
The FCO is our first call operative, but luckily I've been able to be involved with the hydrogen within northern gas networks as well. so I've got to work with it firsthand. I've got to see the potential for it, and also some of the myths that around it need to be pushed. I know there's obviously a lot of people have fears about the safety aspect of it, and unfortunately that's out there now. And when you actually work with it and you see the facts and figures and all that, you realise the risk factor is not what's being portrayed.
Thank you. Who else?
I just want security for the area where we live in, also in the north east, because if you take the gas away and replace it with electricity, there's nothing there to replace the gas in our area, and they're good quality jobs with good wages, and if they go, it's just another industry gone for the north east. It's just better than dying, so we can fight for it. Thanks, Steve.
Right, I'm Colin Brown from PQ's Oil and Gas. We basically make oil pipes for new exploration in the oil and gas field. So we've got well-paid jobs as it is. We hear a lot from the government about there being these new green well-paid jobs, but how can we believe that they're going to be better wages than what we get now? There's no guarantee. There's no contract signed to say that the wages are going to be as good or better than what we're getting now. We've just got to take it that they're telling the truth, but what do they class as a well-paid job? They haven't put a figure on it, so I'd like to hear a bit more about that from them.
So you're on the time.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Loads of big wind farm manufacturers on the time.
Well, I was looking at the battery plants in where I live in Sunderland, and about £7,000 a year less than what I'm getting now, making pipes for the oil industry. So that, you know, for me that's £500 a month, that's my mortgage. So, you know, you've got to think about this, right?
Conor Fogden, Midlands. So for us, we're an oil-based plastic manufacturer. We're possibly the worst, in the eyes of the government, we're the worst possible manufacturer. Everything we make is from gas, from oil. Everything we make is using a large amount of gas. So for me, we need to be securing manufacturing jobs in the north east, and not just transitioning in net zero without looking at the actual impact. I mean, if gas and oil is slowly phased out, we are 97% of the UK market for PVC plastic. So if there's no PVC plastic, your kitchens, your windows, your doors, all the houses the new government promised aren't going to happen, because the builders remove us and move it back to Germany.
I made the point that one of these very enthusiastic politicians who want to close down the oil and gas industry, that their jacket and their shoes were made with oil. All the waterproof coatings that people use on their clothes, all the chemicals that we use, everything that we need for everyday life starts as oil. It's a bit uncomfortable. Who else? Stevie? Anybody at the back? JCB's being quiet.
Stephen McHugh, British Gas. What I want to the politicians about honesty, in the last 10 years. We've heard of this transition, we've been in meetings about 8 years ago, 9 years ago, talking about this. There's no just transition. There wasn't for the miners, there won't be for the gas industry, we don't have it yet. The problem we've got is, how much is it going to cost to electrify it, and how long is that going to take? And people need to be honest about the cost. So we're not getting an electric industry, we're going to keep the gas industry for at least 10, 20 years. But it's beyond that when you look at somebody saying up the black for the grandkids and things. We're going to heat houses, and we can't get the electricity, it's too expensive. So honesty is what we need to do when we speak to these people, because we've had enough lies up and Tories.
Thank you, Stevie. In the Labour manifesto, commitment to keep gas boilers on walls. We argued for that. For those in gas distribution, the price reviews on at the moment, we're off, Jim. How are they interacting with that? What are you saying about the future of the investment in your industry? Apprenticeship, investment in pipes. What discussion are you having? How are you involved in that? Sorry?
Hi, Sharon Yates from the poultry industry. The poultry industry is on its knees due to energy. I work for one of the world's leading giftware manufacturers, and the gas has gone from 150,000 to £1 million, and we're a small factory and we're struggling. We've just gone on to a second cycle of a short time. And the important thing is the respect for the people of Stoke-on-Trent, because that's what thrives our city, the pottery industry. We aren't on industrial estates outside, we're in the city centres, and each time the factory closes down, a town dies, and it's dying all the time. So we need something to be done seriously for the poultry industry. It isn't just the energy, it's a lot of things, and it keeps being overlooked all the time, and it's got to start happening before it's too late.
Electricity is going to be 4 times the price of gas this winter. British industry is already struggling with some of the highest energy prices in the world. We're going to face more factories closing because they'll go to China with burn coal and electricity is cheap. Great point, sir. Thank you.
Matt Williams, 70.C. I think the mandate has to be around introducing fresh investment, continuing to manage the skill gap we have in all manufacturing industries, and then concentrating on bringing back, introducing the levy where it's spent on apprenticeships, to bring back, make sure the youth of tomorrow are well represented in the future. And that's where the mandate of that government needs to come from, is putting the money where their mouth is, and then investing in different industries and manufacturing, all different sectors, to make sure we got a voice within the GMB as well.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks to the team for Hinkley. What have we got? How many employed on the site now?
13,000.
13,000 workers on the site at Hinkley. Make sure you get a chance to speak to them about how we've organised diversity, the stuff we're doing in terms of engaging workers, the work we're doing around getting women in construction into the industry. Some fantastic work going on there. And again, Labour's commitment is to build Sizewell, another new nuclear power station, and the plan is to basically move the workforce from Hinkley over to Sizewell. The issue that we've got with new nuclear, great, we've got 13,000 construction jobs, they're highly skilled jobs, they're well-paid jobs. We don't say well-paid today, by the way. Don't say that to politicians and use it against you. Reasonably paid jobs. But the problem we've got in terms of manufacturing, what are we producing that goes into Hinkley? When I was a kid, there was a factory near me called Parsons Peebles that used to build the power units. So I was offered an apprenticeship there. Gone. It's a housing estate now. And we're importing absolutely everything that goes into that power station, other than a bit of concrete, a few valves, and some pipe. Now, we've got to stop making that mistake. We're going to need a fleet of nuclear power stations. We should have a manufacturing supply chain to back them up. Sorry, who else? Thanks, Kieran.
I'm O'Brien, Sellafield Construction. Myself and Steve have been up on Sellafield for about 7 or 8 years. We're led to believe that the government are looking at cutting costs upon Sellafield, which will also have an impact on health and safety. Obviously, the last thing we want is to impact health and safety on a nuclear site like Sellafield. We've got somewhere in the region of 1,200 nuclear workers on the construction side, and then we've got somewhere in the region of about 850 on the civil side. But in total, there's 10 to 12,000 people that go to work at Sellafield. The last thing we want to do on a place like where you're storing 150 tonnes of plutonium is to skimp on safety. Obviously, we all know that Sellafield gets in the news now and again, things that crop up, shall we say. And just to echo what Matty was saying again, it seems to be we're all getting older, and we do have an older workforce, and we do need the government to step up the game to push apprenticeships, improverships, to get these young people through and into the industry across the network. It just seems to be lacking. There seems to be no push. That's my feeling. Obviously, there's the safety aspect of it, and there's the youngsters coming through.
Sellafield nuclear site, as you represent it, you have 150 tonnes of plutonium, equivalent to 30,000 warheads, left in a concrete shed built with farmyard concrete, and then the seagulls ate the roof. It was an absolute scandal what happened at that site. Very little to do with civil nuclear power, by the way. It was all the rush to build the bomb post-war. But you take Sellafield away, or you run down Sellafield, or you don't invest in it, it gets more expensive to do the nuclear clean-up. It's a scandal. They just shut buildings in the 1970s and said it would be somebody else's job to clean this up. That's what we're involved in cleaning up now. But you don't invest properly in that site, A, it gets more expensive in the long term, and B, what is the future for West Cumbria? You're steel making, you're coal mine. What have you got in Cumbria now? Lee's here from Barrow, where are you, Lee? You strip out a nuclear submarine base, we rebuild the nuke submarines and Sellafield services are for that community. Great if you want a second home, and you're wealthy and you want a second home up in the lakes. How do ordinary people feed their families and survive and live? One of the most deprived communities actually in the UK. I hope you make that point today very forcefully. There must be no cuts to the nuclear decommissioning budget. Love that job. Who else? Take one or two others.
Morning, Gary. Jim Barwise, JCB, Midlands Manufacturing Chairman. Sharon's already spoke about the pottery industry, the decline there. The Sellafield lad spoke there, my Whitehaven lad myself, and I moved to Stoke-on-Trent, so I understand what happened in Whitehaven, and that's why we moved to Stoke-on-Trent with the pits. But unfortunately the pottery industry is failing there, and manufacturing is declining as well. Now you talk about job transitions, and the Labour Party does, but what is it? Is it quality jobs, or are they warehouse jobs? This is the fact. You're closing a factory in Scunthorpe, no steel anymore, and there's no jobs to transition to. There's no transitioning to a job 100 miles away is no good. We're working class people, there's working class jobs that are on the decline. And like you say, we're sitting on seats that are manufactured. We're sitting round, there's manufacturing all the way around us. And it seems to be not on the agenda. There's no industrial strategy from the Labour Party. Where are we moving? We're going to become a country of warehouse workers, and it's not acceptable. And like you say, on apprentices, they talk about building housing. We were in Parliament the other week. They can't build them. They haven't got the skills to build them. We all know that. But they're just coming out with these lies. And they've got to face up to reality.
The future of JCB will be hydrogen. So the team from oil and gas, make sure you're speaking to Jim and the team from JCB. We're not going to be running these big machines on batteries. Chinese dominate the battery market, it's not going to change anytime quickly. And if people think the future is going to be batteries in cars, we'll be shutting down the British car industry as well. So make sure today is about you talking together. The party have got an industrial strategy council they're pulling together, Jim. Make sure you're talking about that and ask what workers are going to be on that. You know, where's worker voice in all this debate? It's not just about the people that talk to businesses. And on Scunthorpe and steel, we've got a membership at British Steel. The Chinese have got the country over a barrel. They're threatening to close the plant unless they get loads and loads of money from the UK government. And look what's happening in Port Talbot. We've got rid of 80% of the UK emissions by closing the steel plant with thousands of people on the dole. Of course we'll look after the people who get made redundant. But what does that future of that community look like? They've been promised they'll be building wind farms. Let's see what happens. We heard that 100 times in Scotland, never arrived. We've been told they're coming on the Tyne. Where is the manufacturing plants for winds on the Tyne? We've got one site on the Tyne that's producing wind farms, the Tyne. Everything's getting produced in China, Indonesia, the Middle East, anywhere but here. That's the truth of it. My challenge back to all of you, similar skills at JCB, many of the skills are similar to what we've got in engineering, construction, shipbuilding and many of the other plants. What are we doing about skills? What are we doing about apprenticeships? Look at what the Americans do. American unions taking responsibility for training labour and takes control and supply of labour. Why are we not doing something similar? Welders, platers, the skills that you represent are in short supply.
Unbelievable. I can't imagine a country this well not producing its own steel. You know, Sharon mentioned the pottery industry. Is there a future in the pottery industry? It's ceramics. And Rolls-Royce has took it up. It's brought a pottery company. You know, we need ceramics in turbine engines. We need ceramics in glass. We need ceramics in manufacturing. You know, we've got to, you know, push these, you know, they die. You know, we've got to enhance it, you know, put his arms around it and get a future.
There's two more points.
is that carbon cane gas. So listen to all the points, very important points, but from a transmission perspective, or from an infrastructure perspective, we put a lot of work into the network. So we reckon by 2032, 95% of the network will be ready to accept hydrogen. So we just want more clarification around what the government has in place, or what plans they have in place. As we're now ready to move forward, we've got a high net in the northwest, as you're aware of. We're looking at other technologies such as biomethane. So we're more or less in a good position now to take things forward, and we just want clarification as to how we're going to get there.
There's billions of pounds of infrastructure in this country, in the gas industry. It's one of the biggest infrastructure. It's one of the biggest infrastructures in the country. This country runs on gas. The majority of the stuff, all homes affordable of gas is used in this country. The technology, as Zach's just said, is there. We just need to enhance it and take it there.
What discussion are you having with Ofgem about that? The only part of the country that seems to work at the moment is the electricity and gas infrastructure. Everything else feels like it's broken, and yet you're going to allow Ofgem to wind up the gas distribution industry early. That's what they're going to do.
Hi Gary. An extension to the smart metering mandate. There's currently up 2,000 employees. The mandate's up next year. There is a possibility to extend it for another 3 years and beyond, but the company's struggling because they're given targets that aren't achievable and they're getting fined. So they don't want it. So I think it's something that we need to work with the government on to make sure that mandate's extended.
Thanks for that. I agree 100%. You're going to have to make the case for smart very powerfully about why they're struggling. You think about we moved every house in this country to town gas to natural gas, and we did it in 15 years, and yet we're struggling to roll out a meter programme. We're talking about a home insulation programme. We're going to go through one house in central London, a house in Kent, potentially, and make the same mistakes we did 12 or 15 years ago. How can we not do these big projects anymore? And energy prices are not getting cheaper. You've got many who work in energy, you work in industry, they're looking at the forward price for energy, ain't getting cheaper. Ain't going back to where it is. Might come down a wee bit, but double where historically.
Hello, my name's Gordon Keegan, work on the Stanlow refinery. We've just had a hydrogen boiler built last year. It's getting tied in to the refinery in January, February, but it's going to burn gas for at least 2 to 3 years. We haven't even started to build any hydrogen plants yet. The HyNet project is going ahead, but there's that much in place before we even get to a point of starting building it. The skill shortage is massive. They don't even know where they're going to get the workforce from to build this hydrogen plant because it's that big. We've got no apprentices. It's dire, absolute dire. I'm trying to get the ECIA to take ownership of the apprenticeship schemes so that we can move the apprenticeships around. It's a total disgrace from our companies as well. And as you all said before about the offshore wind farms, we don't own any of them. 0.03% I think it is that Britain owns. So we've set up the Great British Energy company, but that's just like a PFI on drugs to me, because it's just allowing the companies to gain direct access to British taxes, and then if they fall foul, the British taxpayer bails them out.
Thank you. Okay, 2 more points and we are going to, and thanks for everybody's contribution.
Morning, Paul Davison, Tarmac Cement Packing Plant. Energy spiralling through the roofs, just pushing the price of cement up. It's now as cheap just to import it, and that's what companies are doing. Sales within Tarmac are just diminishing ridiculously. Cheap cement's coming in. We're all going to be out of a job if we don't put those ideas up and force them to get these energy prices down. It's just crazy, absolute crazy to be able to have a ton of cement come in cheaper than pack it out ourselves.
If we're not careful, when we get to the size well, we'll be importing the concrete for that as well, the cement for that as well. It's the only thing we're using at Hinkley.
GMB British Gas. I'd like to know if the government's got any concrete plans to have some version of the US's Inflation Reduction Act.
So in America, we'll change government next week. I'm not sure there'll be that much of a change in policy. Political consensus is they need to bring manufacturing industry back as a national security issue. Good challenge for them today. What does the industrial plan look like? When is it going to bring jobs back, and when is it going to start giving opportunities to working class communities? Sure made the point earlier, John's the next mine off the fight, but we don't mind me saying that, what in the gas industry. The wind farm going off 10 miles off the coast where you live, John?
Yes, correct.
Really, really expensive electricity, huge subsidy, we're all paying for that. Poorest paid disproportionately the most. It was built in Indonesia. Scottish Government went to court to get the project consented. It had been stopped because of the Royal Society of Protection Funds, and as soon as it was consented, they moved all the way up to Indonesia. We're not going to be paying for that forever. How can that be right? One last point, you've been in twice and that's it. You've upset all the gas networks, I'd like 2 points today.
No, of everything that's been said, one thing that I think keeps getting overlooked is the government's not giving us the backing up we need to get the hydrogen off the ground, and by that I mean right now we can put 20% blend into the current network. The problem with getting hydrogen off the ground is the cost. And one of the key factors for driving costs down is creating demand. If we can get that to the point that we can actually start shipping it through our current network, that's 20% of all gas usage. There's a huge there of creating demand, driving prices down, and building the industry around it to help it get up and going for all the other industries that are now calling for it. And that's the biggest thing, is how do we get these factories for producing hydrogen going? Because we're kind of getting investors where there's not an industry there. So we're solely dependent on the government now really giving that financial support to get those factories up and going. So that be my thing, is why are we holding back on getting the green light off Labour to start shipping this hydrogen now? Okay.
Look, I'm going to be very brief. Thank you for all your comments. Today is about yourselves, it's not about me, it's not about the officials for the union. Some really important common themes coming about. If you work in electricity, distribution, transmission, or gas distribution and transmission, how your companies earn their money, investment in the future of those companies is determined by Ofgem. How are we engaging with Ofgem? How are you communicating with your members around those debates with Ofgem? Very important. Quite similar to the debate over smart. How are you shaping that policy debate? The small team of officials who work for the GMB, and actually the most powerful voice this union has is you as workers. We'll facilitate that, but we need to make sure your voices are in that debate. You've heard about the threat to manufacturing industry across the piece. With people who manufacture biscuits going to be determined by energy prices, whether we're going to import more biscuits or whether we're going to produce them here. Defence sector, manufacturing goods, cement, JCB, all of that. The future of hydrogen is very, very relevant to those industries and big industrial users. It links you up with our gas membership, the membership at standalone across the engineering construction sector. There are common themes here. And if energy prices continue just to go up, we are going to see more and more jobs drifting off. And you know about the state of some of the communities that we live in across the UK. We've hollowed communities out, shutting coal mines, closing down industry, reducing our carbon emissions, fantastic, and exporting all those emissions elsewhere in the world. But the solutions and the start of the real world debate about the future of this country, manufacturing and energy starts with you today. So we've not got all the solutions, but we have got all the solutions in this room. Enjoy the day. Don't believe that the politicians got all the answers. Many of them have no idea what they're coming into today. They've been told by people like the Secretary of State that everything's getting cheaper. Energy's going to get cheaper. 4 times the price of gas, electricity this winter. And the wind farms are getting better, and they're producing them in China. How does this get cheaper? Challenge them today. Be respectful, but you've got you know more about your own industries than any of the people you're going to bump into. So ask the difficult questions. Well done, everybody. Great to see you all. This is the start, it's not the end, far from the end. Thank you.